Welcome to Longevity Industries' presentation of the Destiny of Manufacturing podcast. I'm your host, Dean Phillips, and I'm glad to have with me today Daniel Mills. He's a junior at the University of Alabama at Huntsville. Welcome, Daniel.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Great to have you here today. This is a time of the year where we try and bring on students and get their perspective on the future of technology and see where they see some of the things going. Because as people that are out in engineering, we kind of get into our own little boxes. Whatever technology we work with, that's what we work with. And we don't necessarily have a broad perspective in the way a lot of the engineers that are going through school now do. So right off the bat, tell me, what do you see as a big change coming in manufacturing and technology that you're excited about over the next 5 years?
Well, I think one huge change that's just kind of happened because of COVID is that everyone's trying to work at home as much as possible and go into the office or on the line to make fixes as little as possible. And so I think portability of work is, it's kind of exciting as far as quality of life goes. I know a lot of guys that would love to sit in the office all day and not go home at all. But I think, the general opinion is that having a decent balance there is pretty nice and fresh in the industry these days. Now, as far as actually managing that, that's where it gets a little sticky, but we're still figuring that out.
Right. Now, do you see a lot of that being related to the advancements in things like IoT?
Yeah, I think that plays a part of it. Definitely. I think just portability of your, I think computers, laptops, obviously you can do your work at home and then go into work to test it out. That's what I've seen more. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. So tell me right off, what brought you into engineering?
Oh, well, kind of a roundabout story, actually. So my uncle, he quit his job and he started programming video games for a living. As a 10-year-old kid, video games are pretty darn cool. So I started looking into programming, and through that, I ended up taking some engineering classes at my high school that opened me to the engineering world. And so I kind of combined that with my degree, computer engineering. So it's like about half computer science, and programming, how computers work, and half the engineering aspect, the hardware of computers. And I'm loving it.
That's fantastic. That's great. And let me just say this, that it isn't just at a younger age that computer games are cool, I think.
Yeah. You bring a good point.
As you may see,
there's
even now I'm in my 50s, and I can tell you I think they're pretty cool too. So tell me, what is your favorite technology that you've learned or worked with in college that you may not have thought of right away that was going to be your favorite, but you've really been brought around by the technology?
I like embedded systems a lot. They're a little difficult, and I guess in high school I was messing around with an Arduino. Mm-hmm. So I had a little exposure, but that's more like a microcontroller. Well, embedded system all the same, but lower level stuff than that in my college classes. And so that's been pretty exciting for me. Just close to the metal programming and, using peripherals to get and send data. And that's lots of fun.
Great. Now, do you use them, or have you been doing more things like Python, or are you doing it more strictly for more on the programming using web programmers or that?
What do you mean? Like, what have I been using to program the
Arduinos? Well, obviously the language that they're using is, are you using like a Raspberry Pi OS, or are you using the, I said Raspberry Pi, but in Arduino's language, or are you what language are you using, or what operating system are you running typically?
Okay. When programming with Arduinos, they have like a modified C++ language that I used. We used a TI board for my college classes, and that's been C and assembly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So actually pretty low level stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, unless you're getting into specifics, there's nothing wrong with keeping it simple. What is your idea of a dream job? What are you looking to do when you get out?
Well, personally, I'd like something, and honestly, I'm not quite sure if this is possible. I cast a wide net, but still, trying to find something where I'm able to develop hardware and software. I just like it all too much, and that's what I'm really interested in.
All right.
So something where I can build one day and the next day program it, as opposed to those being independent jobs.
Right. Instead of just sitting at your desk, just doing the programming side of it, actually going out and seeing how it functions and building it.
Oh yeah, it becomes way more real to me when I can build it in real life. I mean, programming is a lot of fun, but I get a little more of a kick out of building.
Sure. Now, you mentioned your uncle. Was he your greatest influence?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I wouldn't have been exposed to programming hardly at all until I got older. So, yeah, that's why.
Okay.
I learned it at such an early age.
Well, good. That's good to hear. It's nice to see kind of what brings people into the engineering field, because it is exciting, but I think sometimes people think, I don't want to do that. I don't, that's just too much work. I want to do, instead, I want to go into the business world or something like that. I don't necessarily want to actually have to do the work. I want to tell other people to do the work. That's sometimes people's perspective of it.
Personally, I think the work is more fun. Sorry to cut you off there.
I agree. What is it that you're most proud of as an engineer?
I think being able to solve problems in innovative ways. That's always kind of gotten me into being an engineer. It's one of the things that I was naturally good at. And so when I kind of sat down on the computer and realized I could program something to just build whatever I want, solve whatever problem I wanted, I went ham wild. So that's what's really cool about being an engineer specifically. I mean, you can solve problems in other industries or in other ways, but engineering seeks to solve real world issues.
Sure.
Good.
Yeah. I often tell my wife, I tell her that she'll say, "Can you do this?" And I'll say, "Given enough time and money, I could do anything." That's the great attitude you can have about engineering. And it's true that if you have enough time and you have enough money, you can build anything, because that's your approach when you're an engineer, is that, yeah, I can solve that problem. Given enough time and money, I could solve that problem. And I think that's it's a great attitude to have. That's one thing I love about engineering, is that you are a problem solver, and you don't really feel that there's things that you can't do in the grand scheme of things. And it's a good feeling to have. Now, do you see yourself more on an entrepreneur side, kind of working independently, or do you look forward to more being part of a team as far as a job perspective goes? So when you get out there, would you rather be working on your own, or would you rather be working as part of a team on that?
Especially entry level, I would definitely like to be part of a team, kind of learn the ropes and learn how industry functions. I think down the line, if I had a great idea, and wanted to be my own boss and make that jump, being an entrepreneur would be really cool. It's been attractive to me before, but I don't find myself ready, and I'd like to work up some capital first.
Sure. When you look at some of the technologies that are out there, what is the ghost in the machine that you see that may be missing or overlooked that are going to create problems later on down the road that are going on right now in technology?
From what I've seen in my short engineering career, it would have to be a process is important. So I know a lot of companies are pretty psyched about the whole agile development And that can be really cool and have a lot of benefits for just being able to quickly go in your process between building and working on something and adding new features and then testing it and reviewing it and breaking apart tasks and all that. But where it gets broken is when people kind of leave out some important parts of the process.
Right.
And so following a plan is pretty important. For any job, of course, but especially for engineering, you need to have a process to build this thing. Otherwise, you're going to do the same work over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And companies, some definitely do have it down pat, but I've been kind of surprised, I guess, because I'm being taught all this in school, like, oh, you have to do it this way, and here's this process for software, here's this process for hardware, and then friends and I get out in the workforce, and it's like, well, there's a little more freedom there in that process. So.
Yeah, in many cases, you're right. There's that people don't stick to it, and even companies that are really heavy-duty, staunch believers in process, like Toyota, even they have had their missteps where they have not followed their own processes and have gotten in trouble even with recalls and things like that because they stopped following their process. And that's when you have a process in place, if you don't follow it, you're going to get results you probably didn't expect.
Right. It's the most important with testing, I think. You can skim some things off the top for what works best for your company, but when you sacrifice testing, you are going to end up releasing a product that doesn't work.
Right. Are you excited or are you terrified about the potential of artificial intelligence?
Both. I think it solves a lot of problems really well. I think you can make a computer specifically know how to do something really well and learn and train it, and it just gets to be the best thing ever. Mm-hmm. But it's the more sci-fi idea of AI, which we're not close to now. But when it starts to control everything, I think that gets a little scary. We've had a lot of technology spikes that lead to a lot of layoffs before, just in industry and in history. And I think AI is going to be the next spike.
Yep. Do you have plans of doing anything like taking advanced certifications, like certification for manufacturing engineers or technologists or lean bronze certifications? And do you see a value in those?
Certifications, I've seen them always lead to a nice little salary boost. And, not just that the certification costs something and you get reimbursed for it, but salary. So every year you're going to get more, and that's pretty nice. I don't plan to take those specific ones. I haven't been pushed specifically into manufacturing it with my degree, but I know for a fact those are going to help. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate your time, and good luck next year in your senior year. And I'm sure it will go very well for you. It's been great to have you here. I hope that everything works out well for you down there at the University of Alabama at Huntsville. It's been fantastic. And if there's anything you need, please don't hesitate to ask.
Well, thanks so much. Stay healthy.